Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel for another video on Gran Turismo 7. I'm back with the latest 2 million credit time trial guide to try and help you get these credits as quickly and as easily as possible. So for this week, as you can see, we are at Spa and we are driving in another road car in the Alfa 4C. Now, unfortunately, this car has the glitchy downshifting. However, I've decided to do my lap without using that glitchy downshifting, which does gain you quite a considerable amount of time. But yeah, for the guide, I've kept it with normal downshifting, tried to push it as much as I can with the normal shifting. There is a lot more time to gain, as you can see from P1's time on the leaderboard if you've had a little look. He's not showing his ghost because he's been doing that aggressive downshifting that really does gain you massive amount of time. But yeah, remember, if these guys do help you out, do hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, feel free to share this video wherever you like. And let's get into showing you how to do this. So go into the main menu and in the top right hand corner you've got sport mode. Click on that and you'll be greeted with the online time trial section in the top right there. So click on that. You'll have two separate time trials. We already have the guide for the Fuji Group 2. So if you want to check that guide out, feel free to check that out on the channel. We have a playlist dedicated to the 2 million credit guides. Now we're going to go into the Spa one. You can see my predicted gold is a 42.5, a 2 minute 42.5. I predict it's going to go a little faster. And if you do want to load my ghost up, you can load my ghost up from the online time trial top 10. So when you're in the session, simply click on the top 10 or into the online rankings and you can load my ghost up. Now you can see P1 38.1 and he's not shown his ghost, and there's a reason for that, because he's been doing that excessive downshifting to slow the car down. Now we're going to do this lap without that, but it is definitely quicker. I gave it a little experiment and you gain a tenth just on the first sector alone, so it's quite considerable by the end of the lap. It's 3-4 tenths worth of lap time. So going into turn one, we're going to look for that 100 board. Now remember, if you're going to do the excessive downshifting, you can brake a fraction later. So I'm going to brake pretty much dead on that 100 board there. You can see onto the brakes, but I'm not going to slam through the gears. Now if you do want to do it, you're going to go straight to second gear, straight away to second, and let the engine almost die as you go into the braking zone. But you can see from here, we're going to go third, then second gear, and then we're going to trail brake and try and rotate it into this curb on the right side. Now I'm going to go early up to third gear there to get on the power, stabilizes the car, and you get much better exits. Now this car is possibly a short shifting car, but I've been revving it out. You can shift a little bit early. I think if you shift about 70-80%, it's pretty optimal. But on this section here, you can see I actually rev it out and going into the next group of corners. Now from here, you can see you want to get the left hand tyre all the way over the curb, and you're going to widen the line in so you can really carry the speed up on the uphill section. Now you can do this flat out. Unfortunately, I had to give it a little lift there. We lost maybe a miles per hour, one miles per hour by the time we get to the top hill. It's nothing drastic, but by the end of the straight, you can lose a tenth by doing that. But from here, you're going to go straight over the top of the corner there, keeping the car in the middle. Just be cautious you don't get any track limit penalties on there, because it will invalidate your lap instantly. And now we're going to go into the next braking zone. We're going to be looking for the 100 board on the left hand side. Now again, remember, if you're going to do that aggressive downshift, you can brake a little bit later. We're going to brake in between the 150 and the 100 board, and just before this shadow on the track there. Now again, if you are slamming them downshifts through the gears, you probably can brake almost on that shadow. And we're going to go down to third gear here and get that right hand tyre as much on the curb as we can. So just be cautious here, because you can easily pick up a track penalty and invalidate lap with them bollards on the right. So you want to get as close as you can without hitting them. Staying in third gear now and get the car rotated. You really want to get this car going from right to left and get the left hand tyre up onto the curb on the left. So dab a little bit of brakes there just to rotate, put the weight onto the front of the car, and that's going to help you get this car all the way rotated. You can see it's sliding in, keeping it to the left, power down, and then early upshift to fourth gear as we go through here. So what you're going to do here is you're going to start turning it in, and then you're going to go up to fourth gear as you're turning it in. So up to fourth gear, that'll stabilize it again as close as you can to them bollards on the right there without hitting them. If you do hit them, that's invalidated lap. And again, we're going to go into the next braking zone. Again, this is another area where you can gain time by slamming the downshift, but we're not going to do that. You can see I'm going to use the braking reference of the start of the curb there as my reference. You can brake a fraction later if you're going to go straight to third gear and let that engine braking slow it down. But you can see we're still in fourth gear at this phase, and we're going to try and keep the car as close to the right hand side as possible. So down to third gear now, let that car stay nice and close to the curb. Just be very patient with the throttle as you're waiting for the car to rotate through here, because you've just got to be confident the car is going to be able to rotate once you do get on that throttle. And now we're going to switch it over to the right hand side. So getting the car over to the right. Now you can use the little gap in the fence there as a reference for your braking. We're going to brake a little bit past that. So just as we go past that gap, onto the brakes and start rotating this car into this fast left hand corner. And again, upshift to 4th gear helps with the acceleration on the exit, also keeps the car nice and smooth. And again, left hand tires as close to that bollard as you can, preferably the end bollard. But again, be cautious, because if you hit it, that's your lap invalidated. And just be careful you don't run too far wide on the exit also. And now we're going to head off into the really fast left hand corner. This is where you want to carry the speed through, so braking just past that 50 board. So once we get onto that 50 board, we're going to pretty much hit the brakes dead on it. So you can see there, onto the brakes at the 50 board. And now we're going to get a little bit of a slide going into this corner. Just be cautious, don't slide it too much. I actually probably slided a little bit too much on this lap. You can see, get a little bit more rotation. You can see I'm sliding in a bit too much, but it does help to have a little bit there. Enables you to put the throttle down quite early and then just use some of the curb on the right and keep that power down all the way on the exit. Now, if I would have got a slightly better corner, I probably would have gone up to 5th gear about just before we hit the curb here, but I decided to rev it out because I didn't get the best exit. And the difference in speed is not that much, so you can either go to 5th or stay in 4th on that point. Now we're going to brake nice and early before the spar board above you there, braking nice and early, making sure you're slowing the car down to 3rd gear. Again, this is another corner where you can slam through the gears to slow down a little bit later. So you can brake a little bit later on that corner if you're willing to slam through the gears. Now keep the car nice and narrow to this apex on the right, and again, bit of throttle in, and then a dab of the brakes to rotate it back to the left to get that weight rotation onto the front and help your grip as you go through this corner. Early shift up to 4th gear gives you good traction as we come out of this corner, and just use some of the curb on the right if you need to. You can see up onto the curb and then swing the car back over to the left for this next right hand corner, which we're going to brake just before the curb. You can see on the brakes before the curb. And again, you can actually slam through the gears on this corner as well if you're willing to do it. So there is quite a few corners you can gain time on with this kind of an exploit with the downshifting really. But using 3rd gear onto that throttle as soon as we feel the grip building up, and just be careful you don't run wide on the exit, keep the car onto the curb. And now into this right hand corner. Now you're going to stay on the accelerator and just give a little lift off the throttle here. You're not going to go onto the brakes because you don't want to be reducing your speed. You just want to give it a little lift off the throttle, back onto the throttle, and then keep it planted all the way through here to carry the momentum and keep the speed all the way up this hill and on the straight. So this is completely flat out now. You're not going to be lifting. The next corner is this really fast left hand corner. Now normally you wouldn't lift in some groups, but in this car you are going to have to give it a little lift and try and widen the line in. So use some of the Astro on the right hand side, so you can see onto the Astro, left hand tire still on the track, and then you're going to give it a little lift on the entry, trying to keep your left hand tire as close to the curb as possible. So you see as we go through here, left hand tire up onto the curb, onto the power, keeping that power down. Just be careful you don't run too far wide there, invalidate the lap. And now into the next braking zone, which we're going to brake pretty much dead on that 150 board. You can see we're almost level with that 150 board there. And now we're going to brake in a straight line. And this corner is another massive advantage. If you go straight into 2nd gear and just let the car slow down, you gain about a 1/10 just on this corner alone. So we're doing it properly though, down to 2nd gear. And now we're going to wait for that rotation, you see, and just let that car slide in slightly. Now, at this point, you're getting back on the throttle, little dab of the brakes just to rotate it back to the left, and then we're going to go early upshift to 3rd gear to get a smooth and good exit from the corner. So up to 3rd gear, power down, you should be able to run all the way to the exit there on the curb, and then keep the car to a straight line to the finishing line for a reasonable 2 minute 38.870. Now, it wasn't a perfect lap. Now, obviously, there was a few mistakes in there. I think you can go slightly quicker if you're not willing to do the downshifting, but I predict this time we'll get into the 37s because I think P1 hasn't even pushed it massively yet because the downshifting is massively OP. So let's watch this lap from the chase camera with kilometers an hour. Going into turn 1 again. This corner here is where you're going to massively gain with the aggressive shifting. I tried it out, and by the time I got to the 1st sector, I was over a 1/10 quicker than my best time that I'd done with doing it properly. So if you add that up through a few of the corners, you're 3-4 tenths quicker automatically. So yeah, it is frustrating. I hope that PD do eventually patch out this downshifting that is in these road cars, but it is shown that it's possible to do the time and still get a competitive time without doing it. I'm well ahead of the gold, so if you don't want to do it, you know, you should be fine still. The time is, I think it's 2 minutes 42, like we said before, 42.5, something like that. And that's perfectly beatable without using the exploitive on the downshifting. So yeah, you can see through here again, that early upshift to 4th gear really helps as well with the momentum as you go down into this next right hand corner and braking just before that curb on the left there. And this corner is really important to just be very, very patient on. You can see you just got to be patient on the throttle, wait for that grip to build up, and then get the car to the right hand side. As soon as you're on the curb, you're chucking it back into the left hand side up to 4th gear, use the curb on the right, and then working your way into this left hand corner. Again, just be cautious you don't slide too much in this fast left hand corner. You can see I get quite a slide going on there, and it just reduces a little bit. It's not too bad though. We do use the full width of the track, but I decided to stay in 4th gear. But you can go into 5th gear nice and early and get the momentum and without hitting the limiter at the end there. So different ways of doing it. Again, remember, if you are taking advantage of the downshifting, you can brake a bit later into that corner. Also, again, for this one, as we come into this next right corner, you can also brake fraction later if you're willing to slam down the gears into 3rd gear there. You will be able to brake a little bit later. It also seems to keep the car a little bit smoother as well when you do it. It's a strange situation because you're slamming through the gears and it seems to stabilize the car at the same time. So yeah, let's hope PD get on top of this eventually. It's been like this on the game for quite some time now, so I'd like PD to look at it and get it fixed. But yeah, you can still drive it normally and still get a competitive lap, and that is the main thing though. So going into this left hand corner, you can see little lift off the throttle, back onto the throttle, use the curb. Just be careful on that exit there. It's so easy to run wide and just ruin a really good lap. I ruined quite a few good laps there, I can tell you that. And then into this final sector, slide it in, down to little lift off the throttle, then back up to 3rd gear for the exit. Really important to get into 3rd gear for that exit, keeps it smooth. And then I chose not to change gear before the finishing line because there's no point wasting that shift and losing time. So yeah, keep it in 3rd gear all the way up to the line. But I hope this has helped you out. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, let me know in the comment section what lap you've got and whether you've chose to use the normal shifting or the exploited shifting. I'm interested to see what method people used on this one. So yeah, let me know.